Good evening, everyone. This is Vampire Helly, and tonight we're going to talk about a topic that is really near and dear to my heart, and that is the topic of living vampirism. I've been requested to do this video a lot, so I thought I was like, you know what, why not do it? So are living vampires a thing? Are vampires real? Yes, vampires are real. But no, they don't actually look like this. They don't have fangs, they don't sleep in coffins, they aren't burning in the sun, they don't care about this symbol. I'm quite fond of looking at crucifixes. No. Living vampirism is, and I like to kind of put it like this. Do witches have green skin? I mean, if you do have green skin, you might want to go to a doctor, but do witches have green skin? Do you see women and men and theys and everyone flying around on brooms? I mean, that would be cool, but do you see that? Do you see witches with warts on their noses? Do they go, I'll get you, my pretty? No, they don't do that. But that is the stereotype of what a real witch is. So there are many stereotypes of what real vampires are, and that's due to the media. Now, I'm not hating on the media or dogging on movies or books or fictionalized vampires, because I love it. I love fictional vampires. Anne Rice is the queen. Bram Stoker is the king. Like, there's so much good stuff out there. And I love it. Obviously, I love it because it's my job. Yes, I dress like this for a living. I do streams, I do videos, and so it's literally my job to be a fictional vampire, but off camera, I am practicing a spiritual path that is known as being a vampire, vampirism. I am a real living vampire, and I'm proud of it. I came out of the coffin, when was it? I guess it was like early 2022, but I had my suspicions as early as 2016 when I watched a video of some really cool people, Logan and Daily South. They were talking about their experiences as a living vampire, and that's kind of what I'm gonna share with you today. This video is less about my story, because I've already talked about my story videos, but this video is more focused on what a real life living vampire is. And I'm talking with my hands, but you can't see because the camera's not showing it. I don't know what's better. I'm not sure. I'm like an amateur on YouTube, but that's okay. So what is a real living vampire? A real living vampire is someone who, in my case, takes energy over blood. We'll get to this part. We'll get to the blood. We're not gonna just forget about the blood stuff, okay? We're gonna talk about it, but right now we're gonna talk about the energy stuff. But basically, yeah, you take in energy, and it's a lot like Reiki, only you take the energy for yourself, and you feed on that energy. Now, it's important to note that there are several different ways of taking energy. One of these is called deep feedings, and it does require consent because you are literally going up to somebody and taking their energy. So you do need consent for that. That is, I will underline it, highlight it, circle it, shout it from the rooftops. You need consent if you're going to drain energy, because that's where, you know, the energy vampires kind of get their term of not endearment, because they're going around sucking the energy out of the room, being toxic, being just all around quite frankly a dick. Energy vampires, like those Karens, those type that are like bringing the room down with all of their drama and this and that, they're not real living vampires, they're just dicks. Okay, so putting that aside, it is very important to ask for consent before doing a deep energy feeding, and that really mostly consists of putting yourself, if you are a living vampire, being in a meditative state, kind of in your mind, almost visualizing those like sort of, I know there's a word for it, like there are books written about living vampirism, and so there are terms that get kind of used a lot in the vampire communities. I'm not really a part of those communities. I am a Ronin, which means I do my own thing. There's terms for it, but right now, just to keep things lighthearted and fun, we're going to use the term antennas. So in your meditative state, you kind of almost picture straws, antennas, vacuums, if you will, and you're reaching out to that person. You're taking a deep breath in, and you're sucking in that energy, and you're feeling it. Another way to do this, and it's my preferred method, is to do what's called an ambient energy feeding. And that's when you take energy that's not on someone or in someone, but it's that leftover energy around someone. So, for example, going to a concert, going to the store, where there's large groups of people, there's extra energy abound. And I like to take a minute, stop, breathe, and take in that energy. It's really, really nice. It kind of is great. It kind of is great because, you know, that way you don't have to do as many deep feedings, although deep feedings are, in my opinion, much more fulfilling than ambient energy in the long run. But I prefer ambient energy because, you know, take a little here, take a little there of energy that's just out there, you know, and it's I was about to say it's good for the planet, you know, you don't want to let energy go to waste, but it's good. And another thing is, if you are a living vampire, you can almost be of a help to people, because there are people who come to me and they're like, Helly, I have so much energy, I have so much anxiety, it's too much, it's simply too much, please take some if you need some. And then I will take, and then they'll feel a lot more relaxed, and that's my favorite part. People ask me what my favorite part about being a living vampire is, and it's that. Because I love helping people feel relaxed. As somebody who also suffers with anxiety, having relief from anxiety is the best feeling in the world, and I want to give it to other people. So, yeah. So, you know, if you got anxiety, feed your local vampires, and it's a win-win for everybody. But again, I will double down on saying that you do need consent to deep feed from someone. You can't just take someone's energy. That's a no-no. That's a no-no. Do no harm. Do no harm. Yeah. And besides the energy feeding aspect of it, there are a couple other little things that many who have come out of the coffin, as the saying goes, you know, revealing that they are living vampires and they practice vampirism and stuff like that, have said that they've experienced. I can't say it's true for all vampires, because I don't know what's true, but these things are true for me, and they're true for several others who have come forward and said they are living vampires. And so one of those things is the stereotypical sun. Let's talk about the sun. The power of the sun. Okay, I'm editing it out. That is too goofy. Okay, the sun. So for me and many others who have said they are living vampires, the sun is not burning us alive, but it is making us uncomfortable, kind of icky, kind of sticky, and just overall nauseous, dizzy, weak. So I kind of wonder if Bram Stoker didn't do his research about living vampires, because living vampires have existed for as long as time on Earth, if not beyond that. I kind of wonder if Bram Stoker didn't do some research on living vampires and found that out and kind of used that in his novel, and then more people just went with it until we ended up with fictional vampires burning in the sun. But I digress. A lot of times, the sun, living vampires, no bueno. What else? The only reason that a cross would make us uncomfortable is because there are probably, I don't want to make assumptions, but, you know, a living vampire can practice any religion or no religion. So there may be, you know, Christians who are living vampires that aren't bothered by the cross, but I know for me, it doesn't make me uncomfortable, but it does kind of remind me of my religious trauma and the church trauma, the church purity culture. But also, I have kind of taken it and made it my own, as I do a series on TikTok where, as that is part of my job, where the cross is utilized as props and things like that. So I'm quite fond of looking at crucifixes, I guess. What else? Living vampires don't sleep in coffins. That's terribly uncomfortable. I'm sure there's somebody out there who is like, I'm a living vampire and I sleep in a coffin. But I love beds. I love blankets. I love pillows. I love being cozy. So yeah. What else? That's about it that I can think of. Oh, there is a stereotype. I'm derailing a little bit, but there is a stereotype out there that all living vampires have to be gothic or dress in all black or red for the blood, and that's simply not true. If that's not who you are, if you feel in your heart of hearts that you are a living vampire but you're not gothic, you don't have to be gothic if you're not gothic. You can wear anything you want. I love black, but I also am finding that I love flowers and patterns and green and dressing like a hobbit. And also there's a stereotype that vampires are very macabre and serious all the time and dark, and that's not true for everyone. Because I'm silly and I'm goofy and I like smiling. Smiling's my favorite. I don't always practice darker things. I often kind of dabble in lighter magic, although darker magic is okay too, and we'll do a whole video on what dark magic is, because I think a lot of people associate black magic equals evil, and that's just not the case. We'll do a deep dive of it, but rest assured that black magic and dark magic, I guess, can be used for good purposes. What was I gonna say next? I forget. I have ADHD. Not all vampires listen to gothic music. I personally like folk music and ambience and things like that, although I do love the heavy metal from time to time. A living vampire can have any job. They can practice any religion. There is no one specific religion. I'm going to talk about this in another video, specifically about vampire communities and my thoughts on them. But there is a stigma out there, even in the living vampire communities, that if you are practicing vampirism, then you must either worship no one or you must worship Lilith, who is the goddess of vampires, or something similar to Lilith. And that's not true either. You can have any religion you want, or you can have no religion. You can worship yourself. You can worship this little teacup. I don't care. Nobody cares. Your religion and your practices are all up to you. Vampirism does not equal religion. It's a spiritual path. It's energy feeding. It's a lot of self-reflection. It is a very individualistic path. So I encourage you to not be discouraged. If you feel like you are a living vampire but Lilith isn't jiving with you, and you like to wear bright pink and sing Tiptoe Through the Tulips, you are still a living vampire. You don't have to be like other people. So yeah, and me personally, I worship Odin, and I'm learning more and more stuff all the time. What else? Oh, we were going to talk about sanguines. What's a sanguine vampire? They are also living vampires, but instead of feeding on energy, they feed on the red stuff, yes. It's not a path for me, but there are some who do it, and there are some who do both energy and blood. And I see nothing wrong with blood magic. I see nothing wrong with sanguines. But what I do see a problem with is anyone who tries to do this unsafely. It's an absolute must to do this safely. So please do your own research. I'm not going to talk about sanguines very much because I'm not one and I don't want to misrepresent them. I don't want to tell you false information, nor do I want to give you medical advice, because I am just a silly vampire who giggles and wiggles and shouldn't be talking to you about how to practice sanguinism safely. So please do your own research. We're going to talk more about... Wait, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, living vampires. So that's it. That's really it. It's as simple as that. A lot of people may say that vampires don't exist, and fictional vampires, you know, wearing the fangs and flying and saying blah blah blah. I don't say blah blah blah, by the way. Fictional vampires are fiction, but they are based on living vampires, just like, you know, the Wicked Witch of the West isn't real, but there are people all around the world practicing witchcraft, and even at the time of making this video, there are thousands of people everywhere across the planet who have stepped forth and said, yeah, I am a living vampire, and I think that's really cool. And I want to see a world where, you know, vampirism is just as accepted as witchcraft or Christianity or anything. And I want, ultimately, of course, the optimist in me wants everyone to get along and be accepted. So yeah, that's kind of the purpose of this video, was just to briefly explain what a living vampire is, what a living vampire isn't, and remember, that's it. That's it. It's not this big complicated thing. It's feeding on energy, feeding on drops of blood. Again, do your own research on that. Do your own research. That's feeding on energy. You can do that and still practice other things. You can still practice witchcraft. You can practice folk magic. You can practice whatever you want, as long as you're being kind to yourself and others. There are many different paths in life, and I don't, especially if you are freshly out of the coffin, I really want to encourage you to be you, because especially if you are in some of the bigger communities, a problem I've kind of seen in those is kind of having this like herd mentality and almost a little bit churchy mentality that you have to either worship nothing or Lilith or a dark god or goddess. You have to dress a certain way, you have to listen to a certain type of music, you have to do your makeup a certain way. But if you're a silly, goofy vampire, or if you just like things they don't like, it's okay. Being a vampire is not a churchy type of thing, and it shouldn't be treated as such. It's a very individualistic, I have a hard time with that word, it's a path for you. It's for you, it's just for you. And if anybody tries to bully you or make you feel bad for the way you live your life, if you're being kind to yourself and others, pay them no mind. They are silly. They are very silly and not the fun way. So yeah, that's it. That is what a living vampire is. It's akin to Reiki. It's not, we don't go out in the night and look for victims. We just want to have a good time. We just want to have good vibes, yo. So yeah, if you have any more questions, any videos, any topics that you want me to cover specifically about living vampirism, please leave your comments down below and I'll make those videos. Thank you so much for watching my unscripted, rambly video about what a living vampire is, and may our dreams be filled with magic and wonder, and may your adventures tomorrow be pretty awesome. Sleep well, my friends, because this is kind of an ASMR channel, so I'm used to saying sleep well, but have a good day or sleep well, either one. Goodbye.